And this is more and more becoming your show. I mean, not just Amazon, but you're one of the major players here. Tell me how you see the interface changing around voice, because that's where a lot of your focus is.
Yeah, we see voice as a new paradigm of user interface. We like to call it an ambient user interface. It gives customers a different way. It doesn't replace the phone that we all know and love, but gives customers a different way to interact with the things around them. We started with the home, and being able to turn on your lights with voice is magical. To play music is magical. But now we're extending that on the go with some
in the car.
Some auto partners.
What are people going to be doing in the car? Because I mean, you're driving it. I guess there's some music stuff, navigation that we know about, but what's your vision there?
Well, I think the big thing in your car, at least until we get to full automation, is autonomy, is to make sure that you're not looking down at your phone. That's unsafe. And so voice is a perfect user interface for that. The ability to, as you said, play music, listen to an audiobook as in your commute, or to just get information as you're going throughout your day. It's very, very helpful.
Have we gotten to the point where we can admit that full automation is a pretty long way off? It seems like for a couple of years, people were talking about, oh, it's right around the corner, and it's like a long corner. So the more realistic companies, it seems to me, are talking about the technologies that we're going to use in the next year or two at stuff like this.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. That when we get to level 5 autonomy sometime in the future, it's going to happen, but it's probably a little bit of ways out. Then what you want to do is add more things that give customers convenience in the car. And in the front seat, that's going to be voice-based interfaces and good interactions with their phones and navigation. In the rear seat, we announced with Fire TV that we'll be putting Fire TV Edition in rear seats with BMW and Fiat Chrysler, so people in the rear seat can get access to all this great streaming media as cars increasingly get connected.
And Fire TV Edition is that platform that you make available to others so that they can build your software and services into their own devices, whether it's sound bars, TVs. You're kind of competing with Roku TV there, right?
Yeah, it's an operating system and a platform on top of that for applications. And exactly, it goes into all sorts of devices. I mentioned cars. We're in TVs with Best Buy, Toshiba, Insignia, and most recently we announced TCL with soundbars. So we're excited about that.
It looks like an inflection year based on the way you've laid it out, because what you're in about 50 different devices with it now, but you plan 150 by the end of the year? I mean, yeah, that's a big ramp.
Yeah, I think not only that, but we've also ramped internationally. We just launched our first TVs in India, first TVs in the UK and Germany, including what we've done in the US. So it does appear we're getting sort of a flywheel effect. And it's such an amazing time with streaming media, you included. As we see new services coming on board on top of Netflix and Amazon Video with things like Apple Plus and most recently Disney Plus, Baby Yoda works and customers are increasingly disconnecting.
Yeah, it's a busy little guy. He's very popular. So I always ask you about the business model behind Alexa. And it seems you always say, well, we're trying to get it out there as much as possible and there's no kind of hard profit and loss calculation. But it reminds me of the browser and search. The way Alexa is rolling out there, the interface on the one hand, and then you're getting a sense of people's intent. How much are you learning from the data that's coming in that way, that's cycling through and making Alexa smarter and smarter?
Well, that's what we're focused on right now, which is as we see what customers resonate with, and that could be smart home, it could be music, it could be podcasts, then what we do is try to double down on the research and development and the innovation in those areas and increase the breadth of the features. So when we first started with smart home as an example, Alexa just knew how to turn on and off lights. But now we have over 100,000 devices from 9,500 different companies that allow people to connect to Alexa, and you can control everything from, your toaster oven to ceiling fans now. It's unbelievable.
How does the data affect your strategy? Are you looking at the data and saying, we got to do toaster ovens now because people are asking for that with Alexa?
What you do see is where people are interested in and where they might be putting Echoes and Alexa. So, for example, we see a lot of usage in the kitchen, and that leads you down a path where you start experimenting with things in the kitchen, and there you do oven APIs, and you do partnerships with people like Discovery, with Food Network Kitchen, to see will customers resonate with things like recipes. And in fact, half of Alexa customers last year interacted with the recipe, and you wouldn't have thought about that if you didn't experiment across these different areas.
How is the feedback that customers have given you about privacy changed over the past year? You guys have Ring now. There have been all sorts of controversies around what the cameras are picking up in the neighborhood, how police get access to that footage. Are you getting a different kind of feedback over the last few months that's changing the way you communicate to customers about what this is and what your policies are?
Yeah, we continue to see incredible momentum with the Ring business, too. They had another record holiday. Customers love their doorbells and increasingly the smart lighting. But you're right. There's a lot of bad people in the world that are trying to penetrate networks and try to get access to people's devices in their home. And it's our responsibility as technology providers to build world-class security and protections. And so after we saw some of these breaches, they weren't breaches of our system, but they were people using the dark web and finding ways into individual cameras. We added more protections over the holidays. We're going to make two-factor authentication, which we already had, but we're going to make that the default moving forward. In addition, over the holidays, we added a notification. So if anybody logs into, a new user logs into any new Ring camera, the existing owner gets a notification so they know something is happening.
Those are important moves. So how long before some of that data that consumers are putting into the system through their Alexa requests, et cetera, starts informing ad placement more and more and becomes a real revenue driver?
Yeah, we haven't really focused on ads that much. There's certain types of capabilities on Alexa that are already advertising driven. For example, I can set a news briefing in the morning and listen to CNBC or listen to another news briefing. And if that's already advertising driven, we do support that. But we haven't really concentrated much on specifically building ad networks out for Alexa at this point. It just feels too early.
But you got to be experimenting with it, right? Taking the data that you get and saying, well, how would we target advertising or make the experience better when we eventually do roll that out?
We're not experimenting with that yet. I can imagine someday we might see that if it adds value to customers, but right now it's not something we're working on.
What's going to determine when you do that?
I think when we can find products that will resonate with customers where the advertisement adds value. So one example another place where on Alexa we do have ad-supported content is with music. There's plenty of great momentum with ad-supported or subscription-supported music services. Amazon has one, Spotify has one, but some customers want the value where it's free. And so we have put Amazon's free music service that's ad-supported and also Spotify's free music service on Alexa to give customers that choice. And many do. Tens of millions of customers have opted for that. So if we actually see that there's a value proposition for customers and it resonates with them, then I think that's when we'll experiment.